Hello everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something heavy, something that touches lives in ways we often don't see. We see the headlines, the police tape, the courtroom dramas. But what happens after? What happens when the cameras leave and the world moves on? We're exploring the theme of before and after, how crime changed these people forever. It's about the moment that splits a life in two, the life before and the life that must be built, piece by piece, from the rubble of what came after. It's a journey into the human heart's capacity to endure the unthinkable. These are not just stories of suffering, though there is pain. These are stories of profound, almost unbelievable transformation. We'll meet people whose paths were violently diverted, whose identities were shattered, and who were forced to redefine their entire existence. A successful banker who becomes a warrior for victims. A survivor who finds her voice in the silence of trauma. A man who loses decades to a lie, and then has to learn how to live again. Each story is a testament to the fact that the end of one chapter, no matter how brutal, can be the beginning of another. So, I invite you to listen with an open heart. This isn't about sensationalism. It's about understanding the deep seismic shifts that crime creates within a person, a family, a community. It's about witnessing the incredible and sometimes painful process of change. We're going to look past the event itself and focus on the aftermath, on the quiet, determined struggle to find a new sense of purpose when the old one has been stolen away. Let's begin. Before the day that redefined his world, John Smith's life was a symphony of numbers and ambition. Picture this: a high-rise office in a bustling financial district, the city sprawling beneath him like a map of his own success. He was a master of that universe, a respected banker whose days were measured in market trends and profitable quarters. His life was structured, predictable, and deeply comfortable. He wore tailored suits, drove a luxury car, and his biggest concern was likely the next shareholder meeting. He was a man who believed in order, in rules, in a system that, for the most part, seemed to work. Crime was something he read about in the morning paper, a distant abstraction that happened to other people, in other parts of town. Then, one evening, that abstraction became his reality. A brutal, senseless home invasion shattered the serene bubble he had so carefully constructed. The physical wounds would eventually heal, but the psychological ones were far deeper. The system he had trusted, the one he believed would deliver swift justice, felt slow, impersonal, and bewildering. He was no longer John Smith, the successful banker. He was now a victim, a case number, a man lost in a labyrinth of legal procedures and bureaucratic indifference. He saw firsthand how the very institutions designed to protect and support could inadvertently re-traumatize those they were meant to serve. The world no longer made sense. That profound disillusionment sparked a fire in him that no boardroom success ever could. The man who once balanced ledgers of money now felt compelled to balance the scales of justice. He hung up his suit and tie, trading the corner office for community halls and legislative chambers. He dove into the world of victim advocacy, using his sharp mind and relentless drive not for profit, but for people. John Smith, the banker, was gone. In his place stood John Smith, the advocate, a man who spoke for the voiceless, who fought for systemic reform, and who dedicated his new life to ensuring no other victim would feel as lost and alone as he once did. Maria Lopez's life before was filled with the quiet joys of creativity. She was a graphic designer, her world a canvas of colors, fonts, and beautiful layouts. Her days were spent bringing ideas to life on a screen, her evenings often spent in a local cafe, sketching in her notebook, lost in her own world. She was introverted, finding comfort in the gentle rhythm of her work and the company of a few close friends. Her voice was soft, her presence unassuming. She was a person who preferred to listen rather than speak, to observe rather than be the center of attention. Her strength was in her art, a silent language she was fluent in. That silence was violently imposed upon her in a different way. She became the victim of a brutal assault, an act of violence that stole not just her sense of safety, but also her voice. In the aftermath, she was enveloped by a suffocating quiet. The trauma left her unable to speak about what happened, trapped in a prison of fear and shame. The world, which once seemed full of color and possibility, now felt gray and threatening. Every shadow held a potential danger, every stranger a possible threat. Her art, once a source of joy, now felt meaningless. How could she create beauty when all she felt was ugliness inside? The silence was deafening. But it is often in the deepest silence that we find the courage to make the loudest noise. Through therapy and the unwavering support of her family, Maria began the painstaking process of healing. It started not with words, but with a single brushstroke. She began to paint her pain, her fear, her anger. Her canvases became a raw, visceral diary of her trauma. And as she gave form to her feelings, she slowly, tentatively, began to find her words again. This journey led her to a local support group where, for the first time, she shared her story. The act of speaking, of being heard and understood, was transformative. Today, Maria Lopez is a powerful motivational speaker. Her voice, once lost, now echoing in auditoriums, giving hope to thousands of other survivors. Before his life was irrevocably altered, David Kim was a young man on the cusp of everything. He was 22, a community college student with a part-time job, a steady girlfriend, and a dream of becoming a mechanic. He loved working on cars, the logic of engines, the satisfaction of fixing something broken with his own two hands. His life was simple, filled with the everyday hopes and anxieties of a young man figuring out his place in the world. He was saving up for his own garage, planning a future, living a life that was, by all accounts, ordinary and full of potential. He was just David, a good kid from a working-class family, unknown to the world, and, honestly, happy that way. Then, a knock on the door changed everything. He was arrested, accused of a robbery and murder he did not commit. Based on a mistaken eyewitness identification and a flawed investigation, David Kim, the aspiring mechanic, was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. The world he knew, the smell of gasoline, the warmth of his girlfriend's hand, the sound of his mother's laughter, vanished. He was thrust into a brutal alien world where his identity was stripped away and replaced with a number. For years, he fought to prove his innocence from behind bars, writing letters, filing appeals, holding on to a sliver of hope as the world outside moved on without him, aging and changing in ways he could only imagine. After 20 long years, a determined innocence project and new DNA evidence finally proved what he had been screaming all along. He was innocent. David Kim walked out of prison a free man, but he was no longer the 22-year-old kid who went in. He was a man in his 40s, stepping into a world that felt foreign and overwhelming. Smartphones, the internet, a society that had completely transformed. He was a stranger in his own time. Rebuilding his life was a monumental task, not just about finding a job, but about learning to trust again, to connect with people, and to find a purpose after having his stolen. Today, David works with that same innocence project, using his experience to fight for others who have been wrongfully convicted, turning the profound injustice he suffered into a mission for justice. Angela Brown's before was a life lived on the margins. Growing up in a neighborhood plagued by poverty and lack of opportunity, her path seemed almost predetermined. She fell in with the wrong crowd early on, seeking a sense of belonging and power that she couldn't find anywhere else. Her days were a chaotic blur of petty crime, drug involvement, and running from the consequences. She was tough, street smart, and deeply cynical about the world. To her, the system wasn't something to be trusted, it was something to be outsmarted. Her future was a question mark she was too afraid to look at, so she focused only on surviving the day-to-day. Her turning point wasn't a single dramatic event, but a slow, grinding realization from behind bars. After being arrested for her involvement in a robbery, she was sentenced to several years in prison. It was there, stripped of the chaotic distractions of her former life, that she was forced to confront herself. She saw the pain she had caused, not just to her victims, but to her own family and to herself. She saw the dead-end street she was on. During her time inside, she took advantage of educational programs, earning her GED and discovering a passion for counseling. She started to see that the same intelligence and leadership skills she had used for crime could be redirected for good. Upon her release, Angela was determined not to become another statistic. She faced the stigma and the challenges of being a former offender with a fierce resolve. She got a job, went to college, and earned a degree in social work. The transformation was astounding. Today, Angela Brown is the founder of a non-profit organization that mentors at-risk youth in the very same neighborhood where she grew up. She uses her own story, her own before, as a powerful tool to connect with kids who are walking the same dangerous path she once did. She offers them what she never had: a credible voice of hope and a map to a different future. The Thompson family's before was beautifully, wonderfully ordinary. It was family dinners on Sunday nights, boisterous arguments over the TV remote, and a home filled with laughter. Mark and Sarah Thompson had built a life centered around their two children, Emily and their teenage son, Ben. Their photo albums were filled with memories of school plays, family vacations to the beach, and Ben's soccer games. Their home was a sanctuary, a place of comfort, noise, and unconditional love. They were a unit, a team, navigating the small triumphs and tribulations of everyday family life, completely unaware that their perfect, ordinary world was fragile. Their world was not just cracked, but obliterated on the night Ben was killed, a random victim of street violence while walking home from a friend's house. The crime didn't just take Ben, it detonated a bomb in the heart of their family. The laughter in their home was replaced by an unbearable silence. Mark and Sarah, once partners in life, became islands of grief, unable to comfort each other. Emily, his younger sister, retreated into herself, the loss of her brother and the emotional absence of her parents too much to bear. Their family, once their greatest source of strength, was now a collection of broken individuals, haunted by what-ifs and suffocated by sorrow. Healing, for the Thompsons, was not a destination, but a long, arduous journey they had to learn to walk together. It began with a support group for families of homicide victims. There, surrounded by others who understood their unique pain, they began to talk, to share, to grieve not as individuals, but as a family again. They learned that healing didn't mean forgetting Ben, but finding a new way to live with his memory. They started a community garden in his name, a place of life and growth, turning their pain into something positive for their neighborhood. The Thompson family of today is different, quieter, scarred, but they are a family once more, bound together not just by loss, but by a shared, resilient love. The stories we've heard today are heavy. They show us that crime is never just a single moment in time. It's a shockwave that ripples through lives, altering them forever. It leaves behind scars, both visible and invisible, changing not just what people do, but who they are. For John, Maria, David, Angela, and the Thompson family, there will always be a before and an after. The impact is permanent, a line drawn in the sand of their personal history. It serves as a powerful, sobering reminder of the profound and lasting consequences that ripple out from a single act of violence or injustice, touching families and entire communities for years to come. But if these stories teach us about pain, they teach us even more about the incredible power of resilience. They show us that from the deepest wounds, new strengths can emerge. A victim can become a leader. A person silenced by trauma can find a voice that inspires thousands. Someone who lost everything can dedicate their life to giving back. This isn't about getting over it or moving on in a simple sense. It's about the complex, courageous, and deeply human process of transformation, of taking the broken pieces of a life and building something new, something meaningful, something that honors the past while forging a new future. So as we end, I want to leave you with this thought. The human spirit has a capacity for change that is nothing short of remarkable. These individuals didn't choose their circumstances, but they chose how to respond. They chose to fight, to heal, to help, to build. And in their journeys, we see a powerful testament to hope. Thank you for joining me and for listening with such care. Take care of yourselves and each other.